Peace, peace. Happy Kwanzaa season. Ramesu Adisa Kwamena Alahim, aka Shah, aka 12, aka Rock of the Writer. You know all the monikers that I go by, whatever. Anyway, yo, I just wanted to touch bases real quick, shoot a real quick video about linguistics. I'm not a linguist, and I always have to say that because I don't want anybody to take my words as gospel as far as linguistics go, because that's just really not my field of study like that. But I want to touch on a piece of linguistics regarding the Bible and names that are in the Bible, particularly those names of Judah and Jesus, and just in comparing the Old Testament and the New Testament, and why it's really important, as I spoke in another video, to really have a complete understanding of the time frames that these scriptures were written in, and that the time frames that the stories were based in order to get just a better understanding of what you're dealing with, and not just regurgitating what you've been taught, or memorizing what you read and regurgitating that. So anyway, just to get to it, the name of Judas, the one that betrayed Jesus, um, and the name of Israel's, I want to say Jacob's fourth son, Jacob's whose name was changed to Israel. I think it was his fourth son, Judah. And as I stated before, the Old Testament was written entirely in ancient Hebrew and Aramaic. These were the languages of the land of that time. And Judah, his name was Yehuda or Yahuda. I mean, it's pronounced different ways today. And so the English translation of it, which is Judah, it's kind of in line with that, because the J wasn't, in play until like the 1600s. So, but it still has that Uda, at the end, suffix, I guess you would say, Yahuda, Yehuda, and Judah. But in the New Testament, you hear of Jude and Judas Iscariot. And the New Testament was written entirely in Greek. It has no Hebrew ties linguistically at all. It's Greek. And why? Like I said before, because of the political power of the time. Well, the cultural power of the time was Greece. Before, at one time, the political power of the land was under Greek rule, but the Romans came and basically conquered the land after the Greeks. And so during the time of the New Testament, the political power lay in the hands of the Romans. So Latin was, in the land, but Greece was the cultural um, platform. Basically, everybody was still running on the Hellenistic kind of style. So the scriptures were actually written in Greek. That's why you hear terms like the Alpha and Omega, which are the first and last letters of the Greek alphabet. You know what I mean? That's the like, I just saw a brother in the store with a shirt on that said, "I am the Alpha and Omega." Like I said, nobody really calls that into question. We use that in our churches all the time, but those are Greek. That's Greek. That's, you know what I mean. It's not Hebrew at all. It's Greek. And so anyway, I want to say, like, Yehuda or Judah and Judas is the same exact name. We treat it as two different names because it sounds different to us. Because one is Judah and the other is Jud Judas US. But the thing is, in Greek, with most of the words that they use an S at the end of. It's like it's their suffix. It's just a part of their linguistic culture. Is to use S's. So as far as the name of Jesus goes, we all know that. Well, most of us know that Jesus is not a Hebraic name, and uh, Jesus would have been Hebrew, or he would have been a descendant of Abraham. Um, so, and more specifically, an Israelite, more specifically of the tribe of Judah, of Yehuda. And so they spoke Hebrew and Aramaic in their land. So his name could not have been Jesus. It's just that's what the Greeks called him, because they put an S at the end of everything. You know what I mean? Like Mena or Narmer, who's called Mena, they called him Menes. You know what I mean? Everything they put an S at the end of it. Basically, is what I'm getting at. And so Jesus' name is more in line. The English name that's more in line with what Jesus' real name is, which is Yahoshua or Yeshua, depending on how you want to pronounce it, would be Joshua. Which there was a Joshua in the Old Testament. It means the same thing. So you know that kind of debunks the whole you can't, you know what I mean, by no other name can you get into heaven, or whatever the scripture is. I can't quote it directly off the top of my head right now, but you know what I mean, is that Jesus wasn't his name because that was the way that the Greeks pronounced it. That was, their corruption of what his name would have been in his language. So nobody around there called him Jesus when he was walking around. Wasn't his name. If you would have called him a name in English, it would be Joshua, because that's the same name. But that would be the English pronunciation of the Hebrew. Now the English pronunciation of what they called him in the New Testament is Jesus, but the Greeks called him Jesus or Isus, and so that became two different names, Joshua and Jesus, when they actually are the same name. And Judah and Judas are the same name. It's just like I said, we have to really start looking at the Bible um, from more angles than just this is what it says, so this is what it is. You're not going to understand it from that standpoint. It's not gonna help you at all in your daily life if you're just walking around repeating some scriptures that you don't have any idea of the backstory. It doesn't help. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. I know I kind of touched on this before, but it just reminded me when I was walking through the store, and it just came to me that I wanted to drop that. Yeah, we got to really start, like I said, just start doing some investigations on the backgrounds of these things and see. That way, you're not walking around saying that the only name of God is Jesus. And because I mean, now, in all honesty, that's a lie. It's just a lie. It's a corruption. You know what I'm saying? So we can't get caught up. We can't get caught up in these buzzwords. Well, that's nobody. No other name can we get to heaven. No, that name is not the name of the person that you're seeking for your salvation. You know what I'm saying? It's a pronunciation that someone came up with later because they couldn't say it right, and they just decided to call him by that name in their language. And that's who was the political power, who passed it on to the other political power, which were the Romans, who basically passed it on throughout time to what is now the United States of America through England. They went through England to the United States of America. So that's why and then we were brought over here as slaves, as captives, and were forced to speak the language of this land. And so we started saying Jesus. So at the end of the day, like I'm saying, it's not about that particular name. It's more about you finding out the spiritual connotation behind it. You finding out the concept and how the concepts apply to your life, not just that particular name.